So, you've become a pirate, and this is your first time playing Windrose.
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
Windrose is a new pirate survival game from Windrose crew, and I think it might be the first pirate survival game in a long time that's actually good. Looking at you, Atlas.
Know your place, trash!
So, if you're starting Windrose for the first time, here are a few spoiler-free tips and tricks to help you understand the game faster and get through the early game more easily. First things first, let's talk about plant fiber and wood. At this stage of the game, you will need enormous amounts of both. Basically everything you build, craft or do at this stage of the game uses these two resources. Every crafting station, building and some of the progression quests in general consume plant fiber and wood. That's why you should always have a large stockpile of them so you can use them as needed. From the very first second you enter the game, you are essentially farming wood and plant fiber so you can keep progressing. You should always have both resources at your base and constantly consider whether you can take any more with you. You get plant fiber by cutting down the bushes scattered around through the jungle with your saber and then collecting them. You can get wood from palm trees that you chop down with your axe. But there's actually an even better way to get both. With pretty much any weapon, including your axe, you can chop down those small ficus trees, which then drop both resources at once. They usually cluster together in one spot, so you can chop down several of these trees at the same time. Really, every time you see a spawn, you should stop briefly and chop them down, since they give you both materials in large quantities. If that still isn't enough, you can use your shovel to farm large amounts of plant fiber by switching to the evening mode and then use it near grass bushes. This will destroy all the bushes and drop the plant fiber. This way you can farm huge amounts of it very quickly. One thing that still isn't possible in ARK, and which in my opinion would be one of the biggest quality of life improvements, is that you can just hold down the left mouse button while farming for resources. Seriously, as someone who farms element every day in ARK, I can tell you, this is the single best feature of them all. Gportal is a game server hosting provider where you can rent your own servers to play multiplayer games with your friends. They support over 100 games, including titles like ARK Survival Evolved, Rust and Minecraft. Setting up a server is super simple. You can get started in just 2 clicks, add mods easily, and rely on their premium support if you run into any issues. For the best performance, you can customize your server size and location, or let Gportal automatically recommend the best setup for you. If you use the link in my description or scan the QR code on screen, you'll get 10% off your server. You can even combine my code with their ongoing promotions to save even more at gportal.com. Windrose is a game that encourages you to explore the area. There are many aspects to it, but one of them is that enemies respawn and can be defeated over and over again. So in this game, dodos won't go extinct, but resources won't simply respawn. That means if you've cut down a tree, it's gone. If you farm the stone, it won't come back. And if your mine is depleted, you'll have to build a new one to get metal and other resources. The rarest resource for you at the start is copper. You can only farm this in a mine, and once it is depleted, you will have no more copper. Then you will have to sail to the next island to see if there's another mine there before you can continue farming copper. And you'll need quite a bit of copper at the start. Whether it's for crafting equipment, upgrading weapons and armor, or completing quests to get your ship. So especially at the beginning, you need to pay close attention to what you do with your resources and where you get them. Most islands at the beginning have small copper mines, where you can get good amounts. It's best to use the copper to craft nails for your ship. You only need a few ingots for that. And once you have that, you can immediately craft better weapons if you haven't found them in chests. Upgrading your armor and weapons has a significant impact on how good you are and which enemies you can defeat. Another factor that has a huge impact on your combat abilities is the number of health you have, as these allow you to take more damage and last longer in battle. At the start, you begin with 2 of those health segments on your health bar. You'll quickly realize that this isn't very much and that you need to gain more health pretty fast. The easiest way is to get a health buff by eating food. At the beginning, it doesn't matter much what you eat. This mechanic works so that when you eat a dish, fruit or vegetable, you gain an additional segment to your health bar. This is only temporarily available and counts toward your maximum health. How long you have this buff depends on how good the food you ate is. Fruits, vegetables and uncooked food provides this buff for only a few minutes, while cooked food gives you this buff for significantly longer. You can see in the bottom left corner of your screen how long the buff lasts, and if your health runs out, you can also heal it with a bandage or healing potion as long as the food buff is active. The first foods you can get are coconuts, bananas or chili peppers. Or you can set up a cooking station and cook some dodos or wild boar meat, enhancing these dishes with ingredients you find on the island. You can also continue upgrading the cooking station and crafting stations, but as for why you should do that and what benefits it brings, there will be a new video on that a little later. As you complete your first quests, you will build a camp on your island, and this is important. Decorative elements, better crafting stations and a nice looking base aren't just for show in this game, they serve a purpose. Every time you visit your base, you receive a rested buff. This significantly increases your stamina regeneration and helps you explore and fight creatures. Similar to the health buff, the better your buff, the longer it lasts, and the further you can explore the island. Stamina is consumed when you run, jump, dodge, fight, and even when you parry enemy attacks. Alongside health, stamina is the most important resource, because if your stamina runs out, enemies will quickly overwhelm you and you will die. So keep an eye on your stamina and stay aware of it. If you are coming from other games, you're probably only familiar with attacking. In Windrose, however, you'll quickly find that relying solely on attacks puts you at a disadvantage against your opponents. You also have the option to block, parry and dodge attacks. When you block, you simply deflect your opponent's attack, but this consumes some of your armor and stamina. If your armor or stamina runs out, your armor breaks and the opponent can hit you. Many opponents also have a block on their own and can withstand your attacks until you break through their armor. This armor regenerates over time, just like your stamina, and can be used multiple times in battles. Parrying is more difficult, but it is way better. If you parry an opponent's attack at the right moment, you deflect the attack and the opponent is stunned for a second and can be attacked without issues. Your parry consumes stamina but can be used very effectively to counter attacks and quickly dispatch your opponents. This works especially well against individual opponents with easily recognizable attack patterns. This is much harder against groups of enemies. The best way to deal with groups of enemies is to dodge. To do this, you must press the control key the right moment they attack and press in the direction you want to dodge. Pro tip: dodge away from your enemies. You can't dodge through them, which will basically kill you instantly, since you'll run straight into their attack. A dodge consumes stamina, so pay close attention to how much stamina you have. If it runs out, you'll be left defenseless. I'll keep this part about lock on very short. By using the T button, you can lock on to enemies. I would use it against single enemies, but as soon as you're fighting groups of enemies, you'll often run into the problem where the lock jumps back and forth between targets, causing you to lose focus, making the fight chaotic and leading to a quick death. It's best not to use it at the start, because it just feels a bit clunky and causes more frustration than it helps. When fighting multiple enemies, stay mobile. Don't use the lock-on button because you will get flanked for sure. Kite the enemies around so you can kill them one by one. This is way better. Since we're already on the subject of fighting, I will tell you a little bit about the early game enemies. As well, tell you which ones you need to watch out for and defeat early on so you can progress in the game. Most of them are pretty weak honestly at the start, but they quickly become much stronger, deal more damage and develop more complex attack patterns. The very first creature you will encounter on your new island are dodos. There are two types. Coastal dodos and azure dodos aren't particularly strong, but that doesn't mean you can't just attack them. They usually travel in small groups and will peck at you once or twice before you can kill them with a single blow. Dodos drop dodo legs and eggs, which you can eat, as well as feathers that you can use later on in other crafting recipes. Foreign fiddlers are some of the first creatures you will encounter on the beaches. They're a type of crab that is relatively aggressive and will attack you as soon as they see you. The good news is that they drop crab meat, which you can eat, and it is easy to parry their attacks, which means they will drop back on their back and you can kill them. Further inland, you'll quickly come across wild boars, which you can kill for hide, something you'll need a lot of for various crafting recipes or to upgrade your weapons. The weakest type is the saw. It's level 2 and can be found almost everywhere on most jungle islands. Killing one will give you one piece of leather and one piece of pork. However, they usually appear in small groups of 2 to 3 creatures, so you have to be careful not to get ganked. Where there's a saw, there is often a boar as well. This one is either level 2 or 3 and slightly stronger than the saws around it. In a group, there's always only one boar. It's a bit stronger and drops more hide and tusks, which you can use later to craft stuff. Charging boars are the toughest picks you will find early on. As the name says, they try to gank you from the side with a charge. You need to watch out for these, especially when fighting a large group, as they can deal significant damage and sometimes even one-shot you. You'll often find drowned on the beach or near treasure chests. They're basically a type of zombie that roams the islands. They drop essences that you can use later for alchemy, but we'll talk about alchemy in another video since it's not necessary here. You have to be careful with drowned. They can throw rocks at you if they're standing a bit further away. You can only dodge these, not block them, but they're often super hard to spot. At the start, there are 3 different types of drowned. First, you will encounter like regular drowned. They're level 2, can take quite a beating and deal massive damage when they hit you, so you should avoid them at the beginning. Next, you'll encounter bloated drowned. These are bloated and spit some kind of acid at you that stays on the ground and deals damage over time. Make sure you don't run into the pools and attack the enemies from behind. Then, despite their high health and damage, they should be killed quickly since they're actually relatively slow. Armored drowned are the toughest type. They are level 3 and can withstand a lot of damage thanks to their armor, while they can essentially one-shot you at any time. Luckily, they usually travel alone and therefore are easy to avoid. Sailors are the final enemies you'll face. You'll usually encounter them in small groups of 3 to 5 in a camp. These camps usually contain the loot you need, so it's hard to avoid them. Additionally, they have a lieutenant with them, who has a bit more health and deals more damage, so you need to watch out for him. The biggest problem here is that there are a lot of enemies and can deal a lot of damage very quickly, which basically kills you instantly and forces you to run the whole way back to your loot. To get stronger, you can also level up your character over time. What might seem a bit counterintuitive at first is that you don't gain experience by killing enemies. You only gain experience by completing quests and visiting points of interest, such as ruins and camps on the islands. When you reach a new level, you'll receive a certain number of points that you can then invest in your stats. There are 6 stats to allocate as you level up. 3 of them directly scale your weapon damage, while the other 3 are supportive. Only invest in the combat stat that matches your chosen weapon. Spreading across all 3 stats is just wasted points. Strength scales damage for heavy melee weapons only. No ranged options, purely melee focused weapons such as clubs and halberds. Agility scales damage for fast and sweeping weapons, best for combos and AoE clearing. Weapons that are affected are sabers, greatswords and blunderbusses. Precision scales damage for ranged and technical weapons, best for single target damage and ranged play. Weapons like rapiers, pistols and muskets are affected. Mastery increases critical hit chance across all weapon types. No weapon scales off mastery directly, but it benefits in every build. Vitality increases maximum health. Common food buffs cover this, so it can be supplemented without having to invest points into this early on. Endurance increases stamina, a solid secondary allocation for any build, especially useful during farming sessions. Talents form the core of the character development in Windrose. Players earn talent points by leveling up. The game rewards focused investments, especially since level 2 talents are stronger than level 0 ones, and spreading points too early usually results in a character that's weaker than a specialized one. There are 4 branches: Fencer, Smasher, Archer and Brawler. Each branch supports a different combat style, so you'll get the best results by choosing the branch that suits your weapon and playstyle rather than trying to cover everything at once. But you can redistribute your talents later on, but it costs a rare currency, which means other than redistributing stats, this is kinda expensive. But I think we will make a talent video on its own, as this deserves way more attention. The most important thing for defeating enemies is having good weapons and armor. You can find and loot a lot of useful weapons and armor in the camps on the islands. Each weapon scales with one of your stats and can be used to kill enemies. Some weapons and armor even have a set bonus that increases damage or gives you other useful buffs. You can upgrade and improve all weapons and armor at your base, which directly boosts your equipment stats and makes your character stronger. To do this, you should farm plenty of copper, coarse fabric and hide early in the game, as these are used in the initial stages of the upgrading process. You perform the respective upgrade either at the weapon workbench or at the armor workbench. If you find equipment, you can also upgrade it. It's important to note that all crafting stations can access all storage units in your base, meaning you don't need to have the items in your inventory. They're taken directly from the storage. As soon as you leave your island for the first time, you'll quickly realize that the distances you have to travel are much longer and you'll have to go further and further away. To help with this, you can build fast travel points. You can have up to 10 of them, and all you need is some wood and those bells that you can find and loot from time to time. If you forget to bring a bell to a new island, you can also build a bonfire and set up a tent. Then you won't be able to fast travel, but you can keep spawning on the new island. Later on, you can also craft these bells using some rope and copper, which makes it much easier to get back and forth between islands without having to sail across the ocean every time. You always want to have some wood in your inventory. Windrose will constantly throw things at you, where it might be a good idea to build a foundation, place a torch, or construct something that helps you get out of a situation. At any moment, you might need to quickly build a ladder to reach a loot chest, place a torch in a cave because you want to farm a little metal and didn't want to waste oil in your lantern, or anything else. If you have a little wood with you, you can build your way out of any situation, anytime, anywhere. Having wood on hand saves you time and can help you out of all kinds of situations, time and time again. At a certain point in the tutorial, you'll meet the doctor. Not only does he help you get through parts of the game, but he also has a useful ability. From time to time, he crafts a healing potion for you that you can simply pick up from him. It's free and can be quite helpful, especially in combat. So before you head into one of the caves or raid one of the camps, check in with the doctor to see if he has a potion for you can take along. It's less of a trick and more of a fact, but building in Windrose is very well designed. Not only does it look great and give you a stamina buff if you have a nice base, but using the new building system also feels really good. It's super easy to build walls and then place an entire wall in seconds by holding down the mouse button, or to use features like templates, which were only added to ARK years after its release. All in all, Windrose is a really great game. It's a lot of fun and feels relatively polished despite being in early access, even though a lot of content is still missing. Lots of quality of life features make the game a truly enjoyable experience, and I'm looking forward to discovering more with you all. If you'd also like to play on a server with your friends, please check out the G-Portal link. You'll find some great Windrose servers there, and it also supports me. I hope you liked this video, and I'm thrilled to read if this video has helped you. Hit the like button, leave a comment below for the algorithm, and consider subbing to the channel. Alright, Frodo.